Hi, welcome. This is our first episode of With Love. I'm Kerhart. This is my good friend and also host, Ariel. And we are so excited. We have Kurtis Thomas on today. He's a breathwork teacher and an all-around phenomenal human.
He is literally one of my best friends, so I'm so excited that he's here. I feel like that should be a good enough bio.
Do you think that's
No, but for real, he is a mentor and a guiding light in my life. But about him, he is a best-selling author, speaker, and corporate mindfulness trainer, and has dedicated his entire career to awakening the best in people by raising consciousness and productivity in the workplace. He is also a breathwork facilitator, and we are so excited to hear his story and talk about all of the above. Thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, let's get this party started.
Finally,
right?
Yes.
Seriously.
Okay, first, let's get your story. Can you give us a brief background of your story? Who is Kurtis Lee Thomas?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
I'm someone who's been infatuated with business my entire life. Entrepreneur, straight out of high school and mainly in entertainment industry. And then I had my profound spiritual awakening, and it kind of turned my life upside down, and everything in my reality started to shatter. Little did I know it was really my world turning right side up. And it put me on a path of just, having this insatiable appetite for truth. I wanted to know the truth, no matter how ugly or painful it was. And that took me down a dark path of conspiracies and became a so-called conspiracy theorist, which is, really my cousin. He was the one that was part of my awakening, and started researching, started turning that research into writing just to kind of compile it into a document. Wrote a book, and the book has been very successful in its field because it's act as a tool for people in these times, which is really important. And on this journey, I just really, seeked to know myself. I really wanted to know who I was, and where I came from. I felt like this is bigger than just Earth, and it led me into meeting one of my teachers, who was a very powerful shaman. And I trained with her for, 7-8 years. Learned all types of things, multidimensional, holographic healing. I got Reiki certified and started collecting these certifications. And, I wasn't really doing it to become the best Reiki master or to become the best hypnotherapist or to become the best life coach. I was kind of going into it to gather tools to help myself. Because if we can help ourselves, then it's a lot easier to help other people. And I knew I needed healing, but I didn't know I needed healing. It's what I was seeking, but not really consciously, and ultimately, that's what it came down to. When I realized that it was things inside of me that I needed to release, then that's when the information came in, not the opposite. Seek all this information, but we got all this gunk and junk in us. That's why Master Yoda in Star Wars, he said, you first must unlearn what you've learned, empty the cup before you can fill it up. So that's when things started to shift for me. And when I got into breathwork and I created Breathwork Detox, which is all about detoxing yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, because we got spiritual sludge stuck in us and all these unhealthy belief systems. So that's kind of been my work. Now I'm all in. Nothing matters to me. I still love business, don't get me wrong, but I've actually given away companies that were worth a pretty penny for free, for nothing, just because they were heavy on my soul. One of them was an alcohol company, and another one was just a business that involved shipping and all this heady stuff. And, I just wanted to free myself and just kind of let everything go so I can focus on this path that we're all on now.
I have so many questions. It's interesting too, because Kerhart and I were just talking about this not too long ago. There's so many people that are going through their awakening by seeking the truth and then doing a spiritual awakening. Whereas for me, it was reversed. I don't know how it was for you, Kerhart.
Oh, it's totally reversed. I had like a profound spiritual awakening through Reiki, and then years passed, and I'm like, something's not right with reality.
Yeah.
But what was the first, like, well, I'm interested in two things. What's the first, like, conspiracy theory that, like, kind of made you think, oh, wait, that's interesting? And then also, when did breathwork come to you? Was it through the shaman that you studied with for 7 years? Like, how did you discover it?
Yeah. So let me start with the first question, which was, what was I call it the thing that cracks you open, and it's different for everybody. Because I heard, like, my cousin's like, there's an ambassador in the government that if ETs come, that's the guy that they talk to. I'm like, yeah, right. He's like, yeah, they're poisoning us with fluoride. I'm like, cuz, if they're poisoning us, our water, we would all be stupid and the news would talk about it. He's like, we are stupid. Like, when you're ignorant and ego, you're like, you think, you know it all, right?
Of
and
course.
when you start to awaken, you realize that you don't know shit. So he was saying all these things, like all the buzzwords, 9/11, whatever it was. But there actually was one that cracked me open. And he was telling me about this new law that they were going to pass that gave the president more power than, like, King James and, like, third world country, tyrannical leaders. And he's like, yeah, because they're going to create this law that they can lock up anyone who they want and they can torture them, and the government, no one can do shit. I'm like, cuz, that is never going to happen. Never. And
Yeah.
I remember I was watching this video on January 1st, 2012. Remember the date because it was obviously New Year's. And it was the Alex Jones video. And in the video, he has a party hat on, and he has those little birthday things that go, and he's throwing confetti in the air. And he goes, congratulations, Happy New Year. He's like, when your dumbasses were out partying, getting drunk last night, they just passed a law called the NDAA Act, which is the National Defense Authorization Act, which pretty much says that the government can arrest and detain a suspect terrorist indefinitely with no trial.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what? Indefinitely means forever. No trial means there's no constitution, and I'm like, that's the most unconstitutional, illegal thing. And it is actually an actual law called the NDA Act. And it's like, and I'm sitting here looking at I'm like, how is there's not people talking about this? How is, like, and it just was like, whoa, like, my cousin's not crazy.
Yeah.
So that was the one that cracked me open. And then a whole bunch of array of things came after that.
I love how you phrase that too. Like, I think we've all had those moments. I know for sure Ariel and I have, where you just get cracked open, and, like, once that happens, you just can't go back.
Yeah, it's like, that crack is literally a crack in the matrix within your system. And when that light comes on, right, it's so much harder to go back to sleep when the light's on, right?
Yeah.
It's impossible. I don't think you can.
No,
you can't. It's you can actually. But what happens is you have tremendous amount of suffering.
Oh yeah.
Because now
Denial.
you're in denial and you're living in confliction, and that really what ego is when you fight yourself. And when you fight yourself is suffering. And when and you try to pretend like everything's cool, well, something much worse happens. And that's when you make a conscious decision to commit spiritual suicide.
Mm.
And that's a slow, painful death that carries with you lifetime after lifetime.
Mm-mm. So then how did you connect with your shaman, your mentor?
Connected with the shaman. I was actually in Las Vegas at my buddy's wedding, and I scheduled it. It was his wedding, and then I was leaving from Vegas, mind you, literally getting shit-faced all week. And this is literally when I crossed the threshold from the old Kurtis to what I do now. And I went there and I literally partied so hard for the first time in my life. I didn't even know this was possible, but when you hear people lose their voice, right?
Yeah.
I lost my voice where you couldn't even hear a vibration. It was air. It was like,
oh my God.
No bass, no nothing. It was gone for 3 days. And I went there and the shaman was there, and I didn't know anything. I knew a little bit. I started researching kind of ETs and stuff, which is a whole nother story. And I'm overhearing a conversation of this couple. I went by myself. I was like one of the only males there. It was mostly females, 50s, 60s, 40s maybe. And I was the only minority. It was in Pagosa, Colorado. And I overheard these people talking about, hey, do you know this guy? He can teleport his consciousness to your higher self or to a family member. And while he's having a conversation with you, he can bilocate and have two conversations at the same time and then translate them. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, people can do that? And then the lady goes, yeah, there's a lady over here that can do the same thing. And then they pointed to the lady. And then literally it's like a movie. She's sitting down like the Oracle. And there's people standing up all around her. And she's like talking. And I just like weaseled my way in there. And like, I literally followed her around for like the entire event. It was like, she's like, what do you want? I was like, I don't know. I need a session. I need this a little, and then, we became good friends.
When was this? How long ago?
This is 2012.
Oh, wow.
Is she who taught you breath work?
No, breathwork came 5 years later, around 2016, 17, something like that, whatever. Breathwork came.
Let's talk about your crippling anxiety for a second and go back.
Okay, well, yeah, that is very synonymous with the breathwork story.
Okay.
So let's say 6 years ago, I went to India. And I was in India and I don't know, something happened there. I can't even tell you what happened. But when I came back, I was sitting at my computer. I felt like I got punched in the stomach and I had this crazy stomach problem. Went to the doctors. They said I was fine. I started eating and getting sick every time, forced me to go vegan. And stomach problems, this weird sensation that caused me to go to another doctor and all these blood tests and stool tests and urine tests and saliva tests and hair tests. And not one doctor could tell me what was wrong with me. So it gets really frustrating when you're suffering and you're in pain and doctors are saying, there's nothing we can do for you. I've had doctors kick me out of their office saying like, we did every test. We can't help you. So, I started doing alternate, therapies and, everything, ayahuasca combo, you name it. And I went to one of my Taoist tummy massagers and just for like temporary relief. And she said that you should try breathwork. And by then I tried all this stuff. I'm thinking like, breathwork, right? It sounds very unattractive and unassuming. You're like, breathing, really? Like I've done like frog venom poison that caused me to projectile vomit the toxins in my bodies in under 30 seconds. And you think breathing is going to help me? Like, are you serious? Like, come on. But something inside me was like, you know what? You've already tried everything. Like, she seems adamant. She's a Taoist tummy massage specialist. So she works on that particular area. And so I did it. And then, I had my major breakthrough right there on the mat that night. Now, mind you, I want to go back to Ariel's question because it's just so much pain and trauma. It's like we have to spend an hour just talking about all this stuff. But something that is significant was I was having panic attacks at one point. And the panic attacks were so bad that I had to, first of all, this is in 3-month period. I lost my brother. My house burnt down. I lost my job. Literally all this stuff happened. Started having panic attacks. Moved into my mom's basement. And the panic attacks were so bad where I remember having a bell by my bedside. And I used to ring the bell when I was having a panic attack because I'd freak out and I couldn't scream for my mom to come down and comfort me so she could hear the bell and come there and make sure that, I wasn't dying, even though you're not going to die for a panic attack, but you damn sure feel like you are.
When you were having panic attacks, were they the kind that made you like hyperventilate and like that sort of, or just like you were so paralyzed with anxiety you couldn't even move?
Yeah, it just feels like I don't know. It's such a scary feeling. I just thinking about it, trying to tap into that feeling. I was like, ew, like I don't ever want to go back there. But it's just like it's like your soul leaves your body, your mind goes blank, your body turns light. Someone literally is choking every last breath out of your system. Your heart is beating 1,000 miles an hour, and you feel like you're gonna have a heart attack.
Wow,
that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
I wouldn't wish that upon anybody.
But when you had your first breathwork experience, is that what sort of stopped the panic attacks?
No. So the panic attacks and the stomach issue were two different things. Now, what's interesting is the panic attacks happened first. So this was actually way before even the India stuff. So this is like going back to maybe 10 years ago. And I went to this doctor, and this lady saved my life. And she was prescribing me Ativans, which it's an anti-anxiety meds. You're supposed to take 1 milligram. I started at 1. I started taking 2. I was up to 3. And I went back to get my prescription. And she wasn't even my real doctor. She was a replacement. I was like, hey, who's this lady? And she said, Kurtis, I want you to know that what you're doing right now, you're on a dark path. And that by taking these pills, every time you feel like you're going to have a panic attack, you're actually triggering more panic attacks. And I was like, what? And then she explained it to me, and I was like, damn, she's right. She's like, well, can you leave the house without having one of these in your pocket? I said, hell no. Like, I could not leave the house unless I knew I had one. If I left the house and I knew I didn't have one, panic attack right there.
Oh my God.
It was causing it. It was all in here. So she taught me, she says, listen, next time you're having a panic attack, I want you to do this breathing exercise. Now I'm getting breathing exercise, like really? And she taught me when you put your lips like this, literally like you're kissing or a fish or whatever, and you breathe normally, in and out through your mouth normally, right? Just by holding your lips like this. And what that does is it restricts the perfect amount of airflow to come in and out. So you're not hyperventilating. Now it feels like you're going to pass out while you're doing that, and you don't feel like doing it at all. And I just remember one night, it was like 2 a.m. I started having a panic attack. I went to the bell. I knew my mom was sleeping. I grabbed the pill jar. I put 4 in my hands. And literally, it's just like the movie. It's like I seen the lady in my head, and she's like, do the breathing exercise. And I literally did it. And I'm telling you, by like the last breath of me breathing out, something popped, like something clicked, and the panic attack went. My body went from cold just to feeling warm. And that was the last time I had a panic attack.
Wow.
From that little stupid breathing exercise. And you can guys, anyone who's watching this, they can Google it. It's called straw breathing. Super simple. Now you'd think that would be like the huge epiphany that would put me on the breath work, right?
Right.
Yeah.
No. It's like, I forgot that even happened. And then I go through this whole stomach issue. And then that's when it hit me, because to answer your question was, what I noticed when I left the breath work was that my stomach pain went away.
In one class?
In one class. But here's the thing. It didn't go away. And this is where the epiphany came from. The feeling, the sensation went from my back, from my stomach, and traveled to my back behind my shoulder blades.
Wow.
And I was sitting there like, the next day it was going to my stomach, but now I'm feeling this weird, familiar sensation between my shoulder blades. And I'm like, what the heck? What is that? And I was like, oh my God, it moved. And then boom, it hit me. I said, now I know why these doctors couldn't tell me what was wrong with me. It's because my issue wasn't physical.
Right.
It was energetic. It was emotional. And that's when I started to learn about the nadis and Kundalini energy. And I realized what happened to me in India was I got initiated, let's say, and my Kundalini awakened. Literally in India, my Kundalini awakened. And what I learned for whoever's out there, if you want to avoid pain and suffering, do not go chasing to activate your Kundalini and activate your third eye and do all these things without a strong spiritual foundation practice that you're doing. That's what happened to me. I awakened this beast, this giant, right? You awaken the giant, which is this Kundalini, and she will kick your ass. And that's what she does. She whips you into shape. And the first thing that she did for me was change my diet. I literally could not eat food without getting sick. I was forced to go vegan.
Yeah.
That was the first thing. So she started clearing and purifying my system. And if we don't have some sort of practice, whether it's yoga, Kundalini, breathwork, when this energy tries to come up and there's energetic blocks, they're going to get stuck there, and it's going to hurt. It's going to be painful, and it brings up emotions, and it's horrible. But if you're doing the work, no matter what it is for you, then the energy moves through you, and it's able to move more freely, and you don't suffer as much.
I have so many questions.
Yeah.
I'm like, where do I start? First of all, your mother is such a beautiful soul. That's what I'm saying. So funny how I met her too. So props to her.
Okay, yeah, I remember now.
I just was like, we were at a Conscious Life Expo, and I had gone with you. You were a speaker. You were doing your talk, and then people were talking to you afterwards. I went to go explore, and I'm like, oh my goodness, the stand here, one of the sets of the, what do you call it? The stands, yeah, had beautiful crystals. And I literally was like, oh, this looks like the one my friend gave me. So I talked to the woman, and she was so lovely. We started talking about the different crystals and their properties. And I'm texting Kurtis like, this lady is so lovely.
Wow.
And then she puts two and two together. She's like, wait a minute. And then I realized I was talking to Kurtis's mother. And she had all of these beautiful pyramid crystals, orgone crystals.
That's wow. What a small world.
There, I didn't even know his mom was there. Obviously he did, but.
So then you were exposed to spirituality at a young age through your mother?
No. We actually woke up at the very same time.
No way.
Oh.
Because as cousin woke me up, and I lost my brother, and all these things happened, and obviously I'm really close to my mother, and we're sharing these experiences. And once I started learning about these I'm learning about ETs and conspiracies and all this stuff, and now I need someone to talk to about it. So I'm bringing all this madness to my mom, but because she loves and trusts me so much, she knew I wasn't crazy. She actually knew I was onto something, and then she just got really curious. And that's all you need to be to awaken, is that you don't have to believe it's true. You just have to get curious, because curiosity is consciousness at work.
Yes.
That's a good point. We're seeing it now, how does one transition from understanding and seeing the truths to then transitioning that to a spiritual practice? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're finding many people in that position right now with everything going on.
Yeah, I think for me, it's all the same lesson all the time. And that lesson is balance. Because you go through these phases, right? I mean, I know you ladies do, is it's consume. And then you kind of back off a little bit. And then you're like, oh, you know what? Maybe I need to be doing more yoga. Maybe I need to be doing more meditation. Or maybe you've been consuming so much that you need to put attention on your kids, right? And do more family stuff. It's like we go into these different areas. And for me, it's like, I'll go here, I'll deep dive. And then, whoa, that was too deep. Go in here. But then if you can learn to stay in the center and balance all these things at the same time, that's the key. But there's no formula that's going to allow someone to balance that. It's just experience. They have to learn it on their own. They're going to consume. And you know what? We want them to do that. But eventually they're going to have to develop something to ground that energy and knowledge and wisdom inside of your being.
To be honest, anytime someone has a bad day or kind of goes through a scenario, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Did you want to take a breathwork class? I swear, so many times I'm like, I will sponsor your next breathwork class with Kurtis.
No, breathwork is so transformative. And I remember I did it years ago, and I just found myself very annoyed. And I was like, I'm not doing this. This was like not for me. And then again, it's been years since I did that. And then I signed up for your class. And every time I've been to one of your classes now, I've had such big shifts in my life, profound experiences that feel very otherworldly that I can't explain. But something that really hit me on the first breathwork class I had with you was when you showed us that we're all breathing wrong. And I would love if you could demonstrate how you're supposed to properly breathe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, most people are breathing, through their mouth, and 99% of the time you should be breathing through your nose, normal day.
Mhm.
Now, you might be asking yourself, well, why do we breathe through the mouth when you're doing breath work? Because you want to breathe through your nose when you want to maintain energy. So if you ever watched a boxing match, right? Like Floyd Mayweather, he's great at it. When he fights his opponents, his mouth is always shut. He's breathing through his nose. He's containing his energy in his body. But there's an opponent who's getting whipped, their mouth's open, and they're huffing and puffing. And when your mouth's open, you're expelling energy. And when you're breathing through your nose, you're keeping that closed circuit. So do breathwork detox. When you breathe out through the mouth and in through the mouth, you're detoxing. You're getting all the heavy emotions, any stuck energies, any toxins, because people forget 70% of the toxins in our body are actually removed through our lungs. So it's actually one of the greatest ways to detox. We detox many ways, sweat, whatever, pee. So that's one part of breathing. The other part is a lot of us are doing paradoxical breathing, which is the opposite. We're supposed to be doing diaphragmatic breathing. So what I tell people is put one hand on your chest, like this. Do it with me, ladies. One hand on your belly, and the count of 3, take the biggest, deepest breath. 1, 2, 3. See? Look out. In a room full of 100 people, you got 90% of the people that are breathing wrong. And what I mean by that is when you say take a deep breath in, most people go like this. See the chest go up.
Yeah.
Like this, right? And it's actually supposed to be the opposite. It's supposed to be your belly moves first. And we're doing the opposite. And the reason is because we store emotions in our diaphragm, and we create these blockages to get to our belly because subconsciously we don't want to breathe into the belly because we know, maybe not consciously, but subconsciously, that it's our emotional center. Mm-hmm. All of our emotions, all of our energy is stored in our belly, right? All of our chi, our prana, 80% of our immune system's in the belly, 80% of the serotonin's in the belly. But when we believe that we don't want to breathe into those emotions because we're cutting off the pain in our life, we're actually also cutting off the pleasures and joy of life. So breathing into the belly is the main thing that we do in the breathwork detox, because we're clearing out all the stuff all the gunk that we're holding on to. And that's why people cry and have these experiences. And it's like I tell them, better out than in, because that stuff festers and it can turn to anxiety, panic attacks, depression, dis-ease, right? Mm-hmm. So getting that stuff out of you, it can really cause havoc and problems if you leave it in. That's why Woody Harrelson said, he's like, I don't get mad, I grow a tumor. Because people don't want to express themselves, right? Mm-hmm. And they keep that shit in, they hold it in. And we're not meant to hold on to things, right? If I was to hold this up for as long as I possibly could, my hand's going to start shaking. Yeah. And that's literally what happens in the body when we carry too many emotions. The body will literally have these tremors and get anxiety because we're not meant to hold on to this stuff. We're meant to release it, just like the gazelle who gets away from the lion. The first thing it does is it shakes because it gets the trauma out of its body. And if it stayed in it, it would not be able to survive in the wild.
Wow, yeah.
I was curious. Kurtis offers Breathwork Detox online via Zoom, and they are incredibly powerful. I know Kara and I have done a few now.
That was life-changing. Yeah. And I told my friend that, and she thought I was exaggerating, and she went to your last one and directly after was like, I already signed up for the next one. Like, yeah. I'm so grateful to have come. And it really is so powerful. Like, every time I've been in one of your classes, I've cried or woken up in a puddle of sweat. Mm-hmm. But you don't even feel it when you're doing it. That's the crazy thing. And I don't know, because Kurtis, you do breath work on a regular basis. Do you find that you're still having those detox experiences regularly, or is it kind of that happens more when you're not doing it as your routine?
Well, I never want to put any rules to it, because I tried, and my normal response would be the more breath work you do, the more you clear out. And just like when you clear things out, you don't have such big, profound experiences. But I just did breath work the other day, and I'm on the beach, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. Whoa! I'm like, what? Where'd that come from? It's like we have so much things buried inside of us, layers after layers, lifetimes after lifetimes. Like I can do breath work, every single day, full sessions, 30 minutes a session, and on the 60th one, I have a breakthrough. Or on the 6th day, I can have. I don't know. It's different. Every breathwork session is different. If you guys haven't noticed,
Absolutely.
Yeah, my experience with you has been I felt very elated, like on a totally different planet. But for people who maybe want to try incorporating breath work just to try it even right now, what's something that you'd recommend? Like, what's an example of something that if you want to start breath work, which of course I highly recommend coming to your class, but if you're kind of like, oh, I want to try this now just to feel it, where should people start?
So what I say is, no, this doesn't have nothing to do with me. Find a local breathwork practitioner. If you can go into your city, whoever's listening to this, and find a local person, then go in there. If you want to go online, I'm not the only person in the world that teaches breathwork. But I will say this, for your first time doing breathwork, you should have a facilitator present. So it doesn't have to be physical, but just somebody to guide you and to explain it. Because if I didn't spend, that 15, 20 minutes in the beginning explaining to people what is going to happen, they would freak out, right? So you have to kind of pre-frame and set the context so they allow themselves to push through those things that's going to happen and to have their experience. So I recommend the first time signing up for a group class, and then once you know what you're doing, then you can have a at-home practice, but learn it first, learn how to do it. And you can learn in one class, and what was I going to say? Something else.
Or your book.
Oh yeah. I forget. That was actually the big purpose of the book was everything that I learned about not just breath work. Because if you know nothing about breath work and you start researching, wait a second, there's rebirthing breath work, there's shamanic breath work, there's transformational, there's Wim Hof, there's like, well, which one do I do? That in itself is frustrating. I know I got frustrated with yoga. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna start yoga. You look at yoga and you're like, Kundalini. Like,
yeah.
Where do I start? So I wrote this book. So if you know nothing about breath work and you only to read one book, this is the only book that you'll need, because I feel like that's what I did with The World Is Yours. Like if you know one book from not knowing what's going on in the world to knowing what's going on and being empowered and prepared for what's to come, it's in that one book.
It is. That's so good.
That's why I designed it that way.
For those of you who don't know, Kurtis has 2 books. His first book is The World Is Yours, and the second book is the one that focuses primarily on breathwork, right?
Yeah, it's breathwork. So Breathwork Detox, How to Thrive in the Age of Anxiety. So I share my stories of the breathing exercise that, I don't like to use the word cure because it's a very iffy word, but eradicated my panic attacks. And the breath work, I teach them how to do it. I give them everything that's in there as far as how to detox themselves spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, which is really a big part of it, the emotional aspect of it. And anxiety. I think a lot of people have anxiety, even if you don't think you have anxiety. We do, because anxiety comes from stress. So we all have stress. Mm-hmm. Everybody has stress. And it's not about who has it, who doesn't have it. We all have it. It's about how do you manage it. And if you can manage your stress properly, then you'll be okay. But a lot of the stress comes from underlying emotional traumas and things that we suppress. Now, this could be, you're like, oh, I don't have any traumas. If you broke up with your boyfriend when you were 22 and that breakup wasn't clean, that's a trauma. Yeah. It's a heartbreak. Heartbreaks are traumas, or maybe someone talked about you in school and humiliated you. That's a trauma. These are traumas. These are things that stick with us. And it's the worst when subconsciously we believe that we deserved it. That's when it sticks longer. So to go in there and clear that stuff out when you don't know it's there, that's why people, they'll go there, they're going to be fine. And then they go in breath work and then they're bawling because they're releasing that stuff. They're not releasing through pain, like, oh my God, and through sadness. They're releasing like, oh my God, like crying, like, I can't believe I held on to that stuff for so long. I didn't even know that was there. And sometimes like we only feel something that's there after we feel it leave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, not even just what you're feeling from your own life experience, but there's ancestral trauma. There's the collective energy that you're always feeling, that you can always be tapped into. For example, the time that we're living in now is very unprecedented with what's happening with the economy and COVID and whatnot, so there's a lot of anxiety. People are scared to even leave their homes. And as human beings, we're absorbing that. We absorb people's fears, which is another reason why I love breathwork as a practice, because every time I've attended your class, I do feel that release.
Mm-hmm.
And go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's just like a pressure valve. You feel yes.
And I just wanted to point out to the newbies listening in how I find easier is the wrong word, but it's almost better to start with breath work and then migrate to meditation. Sometimes meditation, we just get frustrated and like, I'm sitting here, I'm trying, I don't really know what I'm doing. Am I thinking about something? Am I not thinking about something? My mind keeps running. I need to stop running. Whereas breath work, you can kind of start at ground zero and just start breathing.
Yeah, 100%. I believe, like, I don't recommend people who are new starting off with meditation. Now that I know what I know now, because that's the first thing. What do we do when we wake up? First thing we do is we go buy a crystal, right? Buy a crystal, right? We buy sage and we try to attempt to meditate. Right? That's the first thing that we do. And we Google and YouTube. That's the formula. It's a process. Knowing what I know now, breath work is the deep cleaning. It is the deep cleaning that gets all the junk out. And meditation is the maintenance. So it's like trying to, clean your car with a toothbrush. That's like meditation, right? It's like breath work's like the power washer, and like once it's clean, you're good. Like trying to meditate, like just jumping in without doing some work first. I mean, you can do it obviously. But as far as being strategic, you don't want to wax a dirty car, right? Mm-hmm. You want to wax a clean car. So breathwork cleans your junk out of there, and it actually makes meditation easier and more enjoyable because it's really the opposite. What are we doing when we're meditating? We're sitting there with the 55,000 thoughts per day floating around, right? And we're trying to make the lake calm. Take the ocean and make it a calm, peaceful lake, which is so damn hard. With breath work, you got the ocean and you're breathing it out. You're getting all these thoughts. Instead of trying to calm them, you're pushing them out of your energy field. You're getting them out of your energy field. And then once they're out, you're actually consciously doing something instead of just sitting there gathering more thoughts. It gives you something to do. So this is why it's really good for the people who are easily distracted, right? The people who have crazy sporadic thoughts, or the entrepreneurs who just can't focus. It's a strategy. Do breath work and do meditation.
And what is it you say that breath work is like years of therapy in one session?
Yeah, it's like 20 years of therapy in one day without saying a word.
I can attest.
Absolutely. Once the session ends, we tried having a phone call one time after a session. We couldn't even say a single word. We were both like, it'll be a minute.
I felt like I was high, like I had taken drugs. It was the weird one.
We didn't talk about the serotonin level. Do you want to talk about that for a second, Kurtis?
Well, so yeah, you're right. DMT is released through the body. It's responsible for putting us in dream state. It's actually the element that dumps out in our brain right before we die. So dying isn't painful. It's actually this blissful experience. But DMT is responsible for giving people these not just psychedelic experiences, but they feel these feelings of connectivity, unconditional love, joy, bliss, is because the perfect amount secretes. And people think it comes from the pineal gland, which it does, but the most DMT in the body is produced in the lungs. So when you start doing that detox breathing, you activate that DMT, and literally can like project your body into outer space during breath work. And I can't tell you how many people were like, I felt like I was like in the cosmos, like you're astral projecting and traveling while you're breathing. It's the most bizarre.
No, I totally saw stars the first time I did one of your classes. I was like, I opened my eyes. What's going on? Like, it literally felt like I was in space. And it's so hard to even explain that feeling to someone if they haven't had one of these breathwork experiences, which is why I'm always like, please just sign up for his class or just like take a breathwork class, because I've never known anyone to do it and not really have that experience.
Yeah, and you got to get people there because you can't explain it. Like I made a whole career out of explaining it, and I still can't explain it. I just gotta. And what gets people there really is other people saying like, "Listen, you just have to try it. Just go and trust me." And then they kind of go in like apprehensive or whatever, and then afterwards, then they're telling their friends. So you can't. It's like trying to explain breathwork is like trying to explain a kaleidoscope to a blind person. Virtually impossible.
Yeah. I always tell people it's the gift that keeps on giving too. It's not like one of those where you do a reading or a session and it's this one time, okay, you had that clearing and then you have to do another one. It literally, you keep clearing, you keep moving, you keep shifting, you keep breathing better. That's literally the gift that keeps on giving. Yeah.
And you always remember the person that referred you. Like when, that person who put you on, like I put her in my book, like, it's like you remember that person because you're giving them a gift.
Yeah.
And if we don't get that person there, then we're doing a disservice to them, and to ourselves, because it's our way of helping people, because we can't fix people, right? I don't fix people. I don't consider myself a shaman. People love calling me the urban shaman and all that stuff. And you can call me a healer, and I got my little fancy certificates and stuff like that. But really, I'm a facilitator so people can heal themselves. And that's what healers do. They create a space that allows you to heal yourself. And that's what I do with breathwork. I hold the space for you. I tell you exactly what you need to hear to kind of rearrange the brain so we can let go. And you're the one breathing, right? I'm not healing you. I'm showing people how to become their own healer.
And it's all based off of the commitment to yourself. How much
100%.
How much you're going to show up for yourself will determine how much of a change or feeling that you have. My first class was actually with you. I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
I know. It's great. I love that.
I so appreciate everything that you do. Honestly, your classes and your approach to breathwork is so refreshing. And every time I've sat with you in these breathwork classes, I just feel so connected to humanity and myself and nature and like everything. It's just so much love, and you're so supportive. And I really want to acknowledge just the work that you do is so important, and you really have helped, again, like empower so many people, including Ariel and I. And I love all the positivity that you bring, especially when we are in breathwork, and all the things that you're saying, the motivational, affirmational, how much we're investing in ourselves and showing up for ourselves and how important that is. And I just super appreciate all of your work and recommend it to everybody.
Thank you. I received the love with love.
Yeah. And thank you so much for talking with us as well.
Oh, of course. This is fun. We're going to have to do it again. That's for sure.
Always.
There's so much we can talk to you about, and I know that your time is limited today, and seriously, it means so much to Ariel and I that you are our first person, our first guest. Woohoo!
Kurtis, do you have a quote or a motto that you live by, that you go by?
Yeah, I've got a couple. And the one that I had a few years ago was I searched for a master my entire life until I realized I am the master that needs to master self. Mm-hmm. So this helped me not look or put my power into other people, into other shamans and stuff like this, which I still have my team, but something internally switched where I'm like, I'm the guy. I'm the master is inside of me, and I need to tap into that. So I had that quote, literally on my bathroom mirror. So I see it every single day. And another quote that
I think I know what the second one is.
What is it?
Can I guess?
You probably know. I bet that you probably do know. Go ahead.
Okay, this is my valiant attempt. But how you do one thing is how you do everything.
She got it.
That's such a good. It's so true.
I hear you in my head all the time. I'll be vacuuming and I'll be like, "Oh, I missed that corner." Nope. How you do one thing is how you do everything.
But that when you do that right there, that is literally an exercise to expand your consciousness and increase your willpower. Because even today, I catch myself all the time. You know what? I put my pants on the floor. And I'm just like, I'll do it in the morning. I'm like, wait a second. Come on now. It's like, why can't you do that now? It's like, you catch yourself, and like emails. Oh, I'll do that. Pushing things off. Like whatever you touch, give it your all, and if you're going to lie to yourself, just be honest. You know what? I'm too damn lazy to do that right now. I'm going to try and do it tomorrow, but I might leave you there tomorrow too. Good night. Just be real with yourself.
Well, one thing I noticed for me is it makes me be mindful in the moment. Because I'm like, well, in this moment, I actually can finish this task fully and be present in it before I rush off to the next one. That's
exactly. If you find yourself with this pattern of, let's say, not finishing projects, like, oh, I'll do that later. Or you do it 80% and then you leave it. You do it 70% and you leave it. Well, that's going to carry over in business, in your job, in relationships. And if you're in a relationship and things get tough, you'll get to that point and then you'll give up.
Yeah.
Because that's the pattern. Because how you do anything is how you do everything. So that's the game changer. That's going to be my motto forever.
Yeah. What an amazing note to end with. Perfect.
Wait, I have one last question for you, Kurtis.
Yeah.
How do you define love?
Oh, damn.
Because this series is all about bringing the love, coming with love, spreading love.
How I define love. So without going textbook or from other cool quotes that I heard, my experience has been about unconditional love. And what I mean by that is learning how to love with an open hand. Because, in my past relationships, the pattern that I noticed, even though I wasn't a controlling person, in my head, I had it was a possession thing, right? It's like that person, if I'm going to commit to that person and that person's with me and they can't talk to nobody, I wasn't the super jealous type of dude. It was all internal. There's things that I kept inside, which really caused a lot of internal suffering because I didn't want to externally represent that person because I didn't like those persons. But sometimes the persons that we don't like is actually us recognizing a quality in ourselves that we need to release. We can't possess anybody. We can only experience them. So when I learned to love with, let's say, an open hand, I use the analogy of sand, right? If I was to grab this sand and squeeze it because I want it and I love it so much, and that's why I'm squeezing it, trying to hold on to it. But when I squeeze it harder, it just oozes out of my hands and it escapes. Yeah. Right? But if you pick up that sand and you hold it like this, you're actually going to be able to hold more love. So that's really been the lesson, is really unconditional love. And that's tied to so many, other things is, judgment and compassion. So that seems to be the one that always circles back, is that. So that's my definition.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I've also heard the one where if you hold a tennis ball too tight, it pops out. But if you just grasp it.
Open hand. Yeah.
Exactly. I really love that. Thank you so much for sharing your beautiful time and energy with us. And your book is available on Amazon, correct?
Yeah, you can go on Amazon. It'd probably be best to go, if someone wants to connect with me, to my Instagram, Man from the Stars. And then the link in my bio has everything, the breathwork class, the books, all that stuff. So Man from the Stars.
Amazing. Yes, thank you so much, Kurtis.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, energy, love, wisdom, all of it.
Yes.
Thank you, ladies. I love you and keep up the
Appreciate
good
you.
work. I'm the first. I go down to history, baby.
Always.